Hey guys, today I'm going to start the process of mounting my moose horns that I shot this year. There are lots of videos online about mounting deer horns and a lot of smaller horns. Nothing that I could find about mounting something this size. This isn't a huge moose, but it's a nice moose, and I don't want to do a full shoulder mount, but I do want to do a nice crown mount. I've already cut the horns off the head. They're already cleaned up and ready to go. I've cut them to a rough size, and I'm going to put them on this board. I'm going to cut this board into a circle, and they'll sit on here, and then I'll run some bolts through there. A lot of times with the small deer horns, I've seen people just use screws, but like I say, there's nothing on YouTube that I can find about mounting some moose horns, something that are pretty heavy. I'll bet you they weigh probably 40 pounds. And so I'm going to run some big bolts through there, and I'll show you how I do that. This is the first time I've ever done it, so it may work out, and it may not. Maybe you can learn from my mistakes. So the first thing we've done is I've taken my 3/4 inch piece of plywood. I've cut it into a circle that will roughly fit the size of the skull, and I've drilled some holes in here and also in the horns to have my mounting bolts mount up the moose horns here. And then on the back of this piece of plywood, I took a Forstner bit and made some recesses in here so the bolts sit pretty much flush, almost flush. But I want to make sure I have still a pretty good chunk of wood here for it to adhere to, because these horns do weigh quite a bit. So I've got some really long bolts here. I'm going to put these through, and then once I get them all tightened down and everything's secured, I'm going to go ahead and cut them off wherever they need to be. So I got them a little bit extra long, just so I have a little bit of buffer room. So I'll start by putting this through here like this. So I've taken a little break on this project, but here's where we're at so far. We've got this back panel here that the horns are bolted through, and this is going to sit flat on the wall. And then I want to make sure that there was enough angle, or it was flat enough, so that my horns didn't come back and contact the wall that it's going to be hanging on in the house. So this is kind of where we're at. The next step we have to do is cut these bolts off, and then sort of paper mache or a plaster over the top of this, and that will give us a nice smooth area that we can put our leather on and wrap these horns and get them fixed up. So my next plan is to get this ready for the plaster of Paris that I'm going to put on here, and this is the stuff I'm using. Just got this at the Home Depot, nothing special. And then I'm going to take some bags and maybe some foam and try to fill in some of these recesses here so I don't end up using quite so much plaster of Paris, and get this sort of halfway around, and then I'll start finalizing the shape with the plaster of Paris once I get these recesses and cavities all filled in with some sort of paper or foam. So I'm just kind of packing this foam in here. This is just the old packing stuff that we got from some package that we bought. And we'll try to get this so that it's halfway round-ish, and then we can finalize the shape once we get the plaster of Paris on here and build this all up and cover the bolts and make this all nice and smooth. When I put the plaster of Paris on, my plan is to kind of have it come all the way out to the edge of this round backing plate, and I've got the sort of a little bit of a taper on that to kind of make it fold in real nice, and we'll see how that goes. This is the first time I've ever done this, so we'll see how it goes. But when I'm putting this foam and then I put paper over here, it doesn't have to be perfect in here because it's all going to get covered up anyway.
Ford dealer. Whether you're getting out to the mall or getting off the grid, we've got a Ford SUV that's perfect for you. Or check out America's best-selling trucks.
Two and save a bundle. You don't even need a Capital One card, and it's free.
So I just dumped this right on there, and just kind of getting a basic shape, and then I'll probably have to make another batch of it and come around here and fill in some nooks and crannies and kind of sand up some lumpy spots. But I'm just trying to get a basic shape right now. Let's say this is workable in about 20 to 30 minutes. I may have added a little bit too much water, so it may take a little bit longer than that. And I'll probably end up doing this over a few days, just kind of tinkering with it every now and again. I'm not worried about getting it super smooth because right here is that bolt, so I want to make sure that I get a nice coating over that bolt so that when I stretch the leather over there, you don't see it kind of protruding through there. So that'll be fine. I'll add, like I say, I'll add a little bit more here as time goes on. So now I'm just taking some plaster and I'm just trying to fill in these little areas here and make this sort of a nice rounded shape. Mixing up little batches at a time of the plaster, and then I'll just kind of keep working it in there until I get it the shape I want. And then I'll take some sandpaper and kind of sand this down and just finalize the shape just a little bit. It's coming out pretty decent so far. It's a learning process, as I was saying before. I haven't done this before, but so far so good. The way it's going, my plan right now is to rely heavily on shaping the basic form after I get this in here, because it's not coming out exactly the way I had it in my mind. So I think a lot of reshaping will be in order once I get this basic shape down. So I got the basic shape of the crown done with this Plaster of Paris. That gave me a good solid base for putting the drywall mud, and that's what I've used next. And this is just a standard drywall mud. It's already pre-mixed just because it's easiest. And I've just been putting that in. I put that on, I let it sit overnight, and then I'll sand it. The drywall mud sands really nice and gets a nice smooth finish. So I've got pretty much most of this done. I'm just kind of doing the final shaping now. And then the next thing will be to put some leather over the top of it and start to cut around the horns and get that all nice, stretched nice and tight and glued right onto here. I still have a pretty low spot right in through here. This is plaster here, and this is all drywall mud, and the drywall mud kind of sanded out of here really easily, so it left a little bit of a depression through here. So I'm going to put some more drywall mud in there and shape it, and then just let it sit. And then the next step will be to put the leather over the top of the crown. I'm doing this pretty similar to what you would do if you were doing just drywall in your home. This piece of plastic that I'm using is just an old hotel room key card, and it allows me to bend it pretty well, and then that actually made a nice rounded spot there. So I think that'll pretty much be good, and I probably won't even sand it. All right, we'll let that sit here for a good couple hours and come back and see what we got. So I've got everything shaped on the crown of the horns, and so now I'm going to start covering it with this deer hide that I got. I got this online. I got this as they're called seconds, and they've got a few blemishes in here. Here's the holes for where the animal was shot. This comes from a tribe somewhere in Canada that I got that I found online. I'm using deer hide because it's super stretchy, and my plan is to cover the crown with this darker color and then put this lighter color around the base of the horn, sort of a little bit of an accent piece, and also to kind of hide where the transition goes from the crown to the horn itself. So right now, before I get too far into the leather, I decided to go ahead and wipe down the horns, because it's got a lot of that white powder residue from doing the crown and doing all my sanding. So it's got sort of that sheetrock dust everywhere, which if you've done sheetrock, you know how that goes. So anyways, I'm starting to just wipe this down real good. I'm not gonna scrub it clean, because I kind of want it to have the natural look the way it was when it was shot. It's funny, when I'm doing this, I think about the hunt, and as I'm wiping this down, it's releasing some of the smells of the rutting bull when we got it, and seems like smell brings back a lot of memories pretty vividly. So yeah, as I'm doing this, it's kind of nice. I'm remembering the hunt that we had and the great times that we had out there and the camaraderie and everything. So this has actually been a lot of fun to do. So after doing a little more research on the internet, I found that a lot of people are putting a little bit of mop and glow on their horns to make them stand out a little bit. If you put a single coat on there, supposedly it gives sort of a matte finish, and if you add another coat or two, it sort of gives more of a gloss finish, and I don't want a gloss finish, so I'm just going to put a quick little coat of the mop and glow on here, and we'll see how that goes. So my plan is to put it on with a paintbrush to kind of get it in all the nooks and crannies, and then maybe wipe it off real quick or dab it so that I don't get too much of the dirt and the natural color off of the horns. So I'll just kind of give a quick little wash of this, and we'll see how this looks here in just a minute or two. It seems to be bringing out a deeper color, which is, I really like that, rather than sort of the washed out color that I had a little bit before. And I don't know, like I say, if that was due to the really fine drywall dust that I had, but this seems to be really bringing out the brown in the color of the antlers. I'm really liking the way this is coming out. I figured I better do this little wash thing before I put the leather on there, just so I don't splatter onto the leather once I get down there. And the leather will probably be one of the last steps that I do. So I've got a nice little wash on here. I'll wipe this off real quick and we'll see how this looks. It's not coming out too shiny, I don't think. I think it's going to look just the way I'm hoping it does, actually. So it's pretty much impossible to see on the camera how much of the brown and the natural colors that came out. Super, super happy with it. I highly recommend just a quick wash of mop and glow on the horns when you're doing this. Like I say, I'm just going to do one coat because I don't want it to be really shiny, but super, super happy with the way it's turning out. Highly recommend the mop and glow wash.